Hello, ladies and gents. Welcome back to Uncover with Jalyn Johnson. I'm feeling great because it's 80 degrees, and in KC right now it's 30, so I had to come to Florida and catch up with my girl, Bri, who is just got the job as the VP of Marketing for Florida Victorious, which is the official NIL partner for Florida.
Yes.
And VP, excuse me.
Stop.
So I'm so glad she had time to sit down with me for a little while. Of course. So, first off, I'm so excited about talking to you about NIL because it's a space that is so all over the place right now, kind of.
No, absolutely.
And
absolutely.
so I'm interested to know why, in a time of so much uncertainty around it, did you decide to go ahead and jump in?
No, absolutely. So NIL, as we all know, is new. We're still navigating it. The rules are constantly changing, so we are constantly having to adjust. But what I will say is just being able to be a part of the recruiting world pre-NIL and post-NIL, I see the importance of it. Whether people like it or not, NIL is here. It's part of the college landscape. It's a huge part of the college landscape. And now just, again, being in recruiting, you realize how much of an important piece it is to the recruitment process. Of course, it's not everything. Of course, you still want to go after kids that have the right character where it's not just they're looking for the biggest paycheck, but at the same time, that is a space you have to be competitive in because NIL, again, is a part of the college landscape now. So just, towards the end, seeing how NIL has affected recruiting and kind of shifted it and how big of a piece it plays in it, it kind of piqued my interest a little bit. And I was ready for a change. And I was like, okay, what can I pivot into? And I did not want to leave college athletics. I didn't want to leave athletics at all.
Yeah.
I still wanted to be a part of the student athlete's life. And, I love recruiting. Recruiting, it's competitive. I'm very competitive. So this was the perfect opportunity for me to pivot into the NIL space and help out the Gators on this side of things. So yeah, it was the perfect opportunity.
And as you guys heard her allude to, she was with, when I reached out to her initially, she was with the Gators as what part of their on-campus recruiting department. So we're going to tackle a little bit of everything today, which I'm really excited. But I first want to talk about the new position that you're in now. So the Florida Victorious, what are they expecting of you? What are you there to bring to the table for them?
Yes. So again, like we talked about already, we talked about how NIL is constantly changing and the NIL landscape is constantly just adjusting to all the new rules and rulings that happen.
All the time,
all
every
the
day.
Time. It's like every single day it's something new. We're like, okay, we have to adjust. But there's a lot coming down the pipeline right now where the current model of NIL might shift a little bit. So me being over the marketing department, I am helping with the branding side of things. I am helping with the membership side of things. So a big piece of what I do is, and this is something that translates over from the recruiting side that I really liked, is in the recruiting world, I created experience for the student athletes. So when they come, or the prospective student athletes, when they come on campus, we create an experience for them and their families, and we show them why they want to come to the University of Florida. So on this side of the things, the membership side of things with our NIL collective, I'm able to create experiences for the members. Like, these are people that are stakeholders in the Florida Gators program. They love the Florida Gators. They're cheering them on, win or lose. Like, they are Gators through and through. And so because of this, they are supporting our student athletes and being able to create unique experiences for these members, these stakeholders, these supporters. And even like a big part of what we do is creating experiences where the student athletes are able to, meet and greet with our current members, and they're able to do like fun things, come to events, host, different things where the student athletes and our supporters are able to interact. It's just something really cool and unique about that. So being able to continue to create experiences.
So what do those experiences look like? Like, what kind of things are you coming up with to get people to interact with student athletes? Because I've always said, like, you're more inclined to cheer for people when you know them.
Absolutely.
And you're less inclined to talk about young people on social media. Old people, stop doing that. Y'all have to stop. These are children.
Absolutely.
When you know them better, you know their story. So what are those kind of things that you're doing to connect?
That is another piece of it. So with this, the membership side of things, we are, again, not only creating these experiences where we have these interactions where the student athletes can mingle with our supporters, but also we're generating content. So that's another part of something that I'm bringing is more content ideas and producing more content where we're able to tell the stories of our student athletes, because they're giving money to support these student athletes, and most of the times they only see them on the field or on the court or doing their sport, but showing who they are as the person outside of their athletic identity. And I think that's a big piece of what we push, is like the student athlete as a person, not necessarily a jersey or a number, but literally them as a person. Because I do believe once you hear these stories of these student athletes and you learn more about them, it really puts everything into perspective. And I think people would be a lot less critical if they really knew what all went into being in their shoes.
Y'all have to stop. I can't say it enough. Please stop yelling at these children on Twitter. It's not that serious, and they had class. And so
they're balancing all these things, and it's insane. It's insane. Like, for instance, so we just did a really cool media day with gymnastics. That's another thing. I get to work with all the different student athletes now. So I've only lived in the football world, but now I'm getting to work with 11 of our sports here. And we did a media day with gymnastics, and hearing these young ladies like go through their days and go through everything that they do and accomplish, I'm like, we don't have the same 24 hours. There's no way I have the same 24 hours as them. I mean, we have a student athlete, she literally just got accepted into medical school. She's going to medical school, and she's talking about how she wakes up early in the morning, she listens to her lectures, she does all this, she goes to practice, she goes to study hall, she has all these things, and I'm like, there's no way we have the same 24 hours. Leanne Wong, who, Olympian, she's talking about how, she's a student, she's an athlete, but in the middle of that, she's running a foundation. She also, like that very day that we had media day, she was like, oh yeah, I just picked up 95 pounds of food to feed the homeless. And I'm like, wow, like there's no way we have the same 24 hours.
Are y'all picking up 95 pounds of food to feed the homeless?
So impressive.
Come on.
Yeah, it's impressive.
So what got you into the recruiting space? Because this is still recruiting for you in some type of way.
Yeah.
What got you into this space, and what was attractive about it to you?
Funny enough, I fell into it. It was one of those things I didn't know it existed, like the recruiting world, because you see the team on the field, but you don't even think about a lot of times what it takes or what goes into getting this team, assembling this team.
Yes.
So I was literally a freshman at Mississippi State University where we met, and I was walking on the drill field, funny enough, which is like our hub central part of campus. And you know how people like harass you with flyers, like here, join this, here's this, and I'm like, okay. So I take a flyer because the person's pitch was, do you want to have dinner with the head football coach? And I'm like, okay,
that was good,
right?
That was a good pitch.
That was a great pitch.
That was a great pitch.
Marketing.
Because I would have said, yep, I got some things
so I'm
to
like,
say.
oh, because usually you're like, no, thank you. But then I was like, oh, wait, actually, and I'm thinking it's like a raffle competition or something to win a dinner with the head football coach. And then I look at it and come to find out it was an interest meeting for the student host group. In this time, I'm aging myself a little bit because student host groups have since went away, especially in the SEC. You have to be like full-time. There's rules, all these compliance rules now. But back then, students could host prospective student athletes. So really aging myself.
Grown. We're just
grown. But we could host prospective student athletes, and it was an interesting meeting for that host group. So I went, I heard it out, like I listened out, and the pitch of having dinner with the head football coach was, of course, official visits where you take them out to dinner. So that was like the pitch. But I went and I listened, and I was like, oh, actually, this is interesting. I was a freshman. I was still trying to get involved on campus. I've always loved sports, always wanted to be around sports. But I just didn't know there were opportunities for women in sports, really, outside of maybe a dietitian or, athletic trainer. But then realizing there were other spaces for women, especially in a male-dominated sport like football.
Yes.
I was like, oh, this is interesting. So literally, I applied. I got the interview. I went through a series of 3 interviews, 3 rounds, and I got selected to be a Bullies Bell. That was our name, Bullies Bells.
So cute.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, I got selected to be a Bullies Bell, and my first game working was our first home game after we beat Auburn and became number 1. So you
got in on the good part.
Yes, it was insane. It was absolute madness because you can only imagine, Mississippi State has now become the number 1 team in the country, and everybody's coming to visit, and it was absolute madness and chaos, and I really got thrown into the fire. It was like my first game, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what is happening? This is crazy. But for some reason, crazy excited me, and I was like, oh my gosh, I love this. I want to do this for the rest of my life.
I feel like that's a little bit of athletics. It's like a little bit of
it was such a thrill. It was such a rush. I'm like, oh my gosh, football. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. And then my boss at the time, my supervisor, she was a woman, and seeing this woman that is like this total and complete boss, she was a badass. I'm like, oh, okay, I want to be her. So Funny enough, I was a biochemistry major when I went to Mississippi State because, of course, naturally, I like people. I want to work with people. And naturally, what do you think? Going into the medical field, I can help people. I can work with people. But then once I got involved in the student group at Mississippi State, I realized, like, wow, this is a way for me to interact with people, be around people, learn their stories, be a part of their journey. And it was just something so thrilling and so rewarding about that, where I changed my major. I was like, hey, I'm going to change my major. I'm going to go into sports full time. This is what I'm going to do. My mom at first thought I was making up stuff. She was like, is this really a real job? And I'm like, Mom, I promise. I have a plan. I have a plan, Mom. And she was like, okay, but you still need to get your prereqs for medical school. And I'm like, okay, we got to have the plans together. I was like, deal. Okay, whatever. But, you know, changed my major, which I actually ended up changing to marketing because at the time, again, aging myself, we didn't have an undergraduate degree for sports management or sport administration at Mississippi State.
That has blown up so much.
It has. It really has. And it wasn't an option. So I was like, okay, what's a good option that is transferable, that translates over to like the things I'm interested in? And it was marketing. So I was a marketing major, got my marketing degree from Mississippi State, ended up being a part of that student host group for 4 seasons. And then I ended up working for the football team, still in recruiting in a graduate capacity. And so I did 5 seasons total at Mississippi State. And then, yeah, it was time to apply and get a big girl job after grad school. So that's what I did. And I've been rolling ever since.
What do you think, and it's interesting that you talk about,
Yeah.
you know, not seeing women in that space, not knowing that women could be in that space. And we are just coming off of National Girls and Women in Sports Day.
Yes.
So shout out to all of our girlies and women in sports.
Yes.
But I think that's interesting that you didn't see yourself there. How did you get comfortable in being in such a male-dominated space, but finding your voice and finding your, I guess, center and comfortability in that?
No, absolutely. I think seeing women in that space, that's why representation is so important. So again, I talked about my boss at the time and how she just like carried herself and she handled herself and she had all these men. She was like getting them in order. She was like, you here. And I'm like, yes, girl, yes. And then even my boss after that, my supervisor after that, who's Andrea Hollis.
Shout out to Andrea Hollis.
Andrea
we
is
love her.
really incredible.
She's a star.
Just watching how she navigated in that space, it just really like opened my eyes and I saw myself in them. I'm like, I can do that too. So that's why representation is just so important, because it's a lot of times it's hard to imagine yourself in these spaces when you don't see yourself or see people that look like you. But when you see people that look like you in your spaces, you can imagine like, okay, I can do that too. I can be that as well. And that's really what helped me, like watching how they navigated and how they handled themselves, their professionalism. I mean, it really inspired me and I took notes. Like I'm a person that sits back and I observe, and that's what I did. I was a sponge. So those 4 or 5 years I was at Mississippi State, like literally I soaked everything up. I watched them. I watched how they handled situations. I watched how they worked under pressure, and because of that I was able to come into myself and be comfortable in this space as well.
I love that.
Yeah.
Were there any downsides? Were there any times where you felt like this is too much?
Yeah. There's a lot of times that you're like, this is too much. The world of college football is insane. It's absolutely insane. And recruiting specifically is another beast. So it's 24/7. Every season is recruiting season. Like people are like, oh, it's not even recruiting season. Yes, it is. Recruiting is year round. There's no dead time. Even dead periods, you're still actively on it. So, yeah, there was a lot of times where it's like trying, and especially, again, going back to being competitive, you know, recruiting, you're competing with all these other universities to try to get these student athletes. And so sometimes you take those L's and you have to take them on your chin, and it hurts because you put your everything into it. I mean, you're friends with mama, daddy, like the kids love you, like you love these families and you build these relationships, and then when they choose to go somewhere else, it's like, it just takes the air out of you. You're like, oh my gosh. And, you know, you take some L's and it's tough, and then sometimes you get criticized because it's like, how did we miss on this guy? And it's like, guys, it just happened. It just happened.
Yeah.
Like we did everything, we gave it our all. And then sometimes you're like, why do I do this? But then you have those moments where it just reminds you of why you do it. So again, just those relationships that you do create with the student athletes that you do end up getting, that do end up, you know, enrolling at your university, and watching them grow up, and they come in as these like, well, you see them as a high schooler and they're going through the recruitment process. You're getting to know them, getting to know their families, their backstories. And then, they get on campus and they're like the little freshmen and they're just like, throwing
eyes wide open.
Eyes wide. They're like, oh my gosh, you're taking in everything. And then just watching them grow and come into themselves and just really start to be like almost big dog on campus. And it's just like, wow, like that's the rewarding piece. Like you get to be a part of that journey. And it's like, it's nothing like it. And seeing them go on, because again, in the recruitment process, you hear about the things they want to accomplish. You hear about their goals. You know what their aspirations are. And then when you see them achieve those things, it's like, wow, like you feel like a proud mama. Like a proud mama bear. So those are the things that really make it worth it. So you have trying times, but then you also have times that make it all worth it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what does that process look like? Because you're making it sound very like, we get them to come and then, they go to the NFL and we're all happy. But it's like your day-to-day grind, I know, was insane. So what does it look like putting together, on-campus visits and game days where y'all had that viral video this past season of, your recruits and all that.
Yes.
So what goes into all of that and planning those things?
Yeah, so there's a lot that goes into it because everything you do, you want it to be intentional. You don't want it to feel like you're just another number. You want everyone to feel like this experience is personalized and tailored to you, especially unofficial visits where they're coming like every day during practices and things like that. You want to tailor it to them. So even before you get them on campus, a big part of it is convincing them to come visit you here on campus. Like, this is why you need to come visit the University of Florida, come see what we have to offer. So a big part of that is, constantly talking to them, like learning what's important to them. Okay, is it playing time? Is it development? Like, what's important to you? And then from there, of course, we craft out our plan of how we're going to prove to you the University of Florida is somewhere you can come and you can succeed. So it all starts with just getting to know them, getting to know what's important to them, getting to know what's important to their families, who their champions are, like who are the important people in their lives, and then getting to know, again, what's important to them, and just then tailoring their experience when they come on campus to show them everything that we have to offer and how it aligns with what their goals and aspirations are again. So that's kind of the basis of what goes into it. And then you have guys that come on campus constantly where they come back for more, and you want them to keep coming back because that means they like it here, and that means, they want to see more and they're really feeling the university. But sometimes you have to get really creative. You're like, okay, I have thrown everything at him. What are we going to do next? And sometimes you have to do really random creative things just to keep them, keep them engaged, keep them coming. And that's part of the fun too, is like, okay, how can we get creative? What are the other schools doing? What can we do that the other schools aren't doing to separate yourselves? So I think that is something, again, creating those experiences where they keep coming back for more, and no visit is like the other. That's another thing that we really prided ourselves upon, is no visit is going to be like another visit that you've been on. Each visit is going to be special and a new experience, a new memory for you. Literally from the time they pull up on campus to the time they leave, it's full hospitality. You want it to be the smoothest process. You want them to enjoy everything. There's no hassle, so you have to think through every little thing.
Yeah.
Signage, parking, like we don't want them to have any questions. We don't want any frustrations, because think about it. If you go somewhere and you're pulling up and you can't find parking, you can't find the place, then you're frustrated before you even get there.
Like.
So even exactly. So even down to those minute details, it all matters, and it all goes into the visit. And then when they're coming here, you just really want them to get a genuine feel for your staff. You know what I mean? You want to let them know, because ultimately, like, these families, their loved ones, they want to know that their son is going to a place where they're going to be taken care of. And so that is what you need to be proving, is that, hey, like, this is a place where you come and you won't have to worry about anything. Like, mama, you're not going to have to worry about your baby. We got him. So again, just creating those experiences, just selling the university, as well as just making them feel comfortable with you. That's a big part of it.
Yeah, well, and a thing with making those connections with the families, when you did graduate from Mississippi State from grad school, you ended up going to Louisiana, right?
I did.
Okay, so she's that dope that Coach brought her here with him. He said, you have to come with me. So she's been with Coach Billy Napier for years.
Yeah, 5 seasons.
How, as a young woman, like just graduating from grad school, were you able to feel like I can connect to, these guys that are coming out of high school, but I'm also having to go talk to mom and dad and auntie and sister? And how did you be who everybody needed you to be while still being yourself?
Ooh, that's a good one. I just think it came naturally. Again, like I really love people. I love being around people, and just seeing smiles on people's faces and just seeing them enjoy their visits, enjoying their time, you know, on campus and with you. Like that's fulfilling, that's rewarding. So I think it just honestly came naturally. Like I enjoy getting to know people. I enjoy getting to know the student athletes. Again, getting to know their stories, their background, getting to know why they're the way they are, why Mama's the way she is, you know? It's just really interesting, and it was really fascinating. And then again, as they keep continuing to come on campus, you continue to learn more about them. They get more comfortable with you. You get more comfortable with them. They become family. And I mean, it's just, it's a really cool thing to build those relationships. So I think coming in, I came in at a very interesting time. I got my job at the University of Louisiana in February of 2020, so halfway through February. So as you know, right after that was March 2020, which was COVID, and I was the director of on-campus recruiting, and I couldn't have anyone on campus. So like, what does that look like, you know? What does that even look like? So having to navigate and having to adjust there and like figure out how to virtually recruit, that was a whole nother process. But again, like it just really emphasized the importance of building relationships and, you know, just connecting with people. That's the biggest piece, is connecting with people. So I don't know, it was a challenge, but it just came naturally just because I enjoyed it, and work never felt like work.
And what a challenge to have in your first year, right?
Absolutely.
To come out and be like, oh, I'm director of on-campus recruiting, but y'all can't come
on campus. Yeah. So I'm like, am I gonna lose my job? Like,
and I'm sure it made you better from that, because you have
did.
to think, like you said, think outside the box for things like that. How did it make you feel when you hear, okay, Coach is going to Florida, like, what about me?
Oh, so it was the initial panic, because first of all, Coach Napier is amazing. We all knew he was gonna get a big time job. Like that was already, like we always knew that. And so he gets the job at Florida, and it's like, what we knew was eventually gonna happen, the inevitable happened. But then it's like, do I have a job? Like, is he gonna take me with him? If they bring in a new coach at UL and I'm still here, are they going to keep me? Because they can fire me. But then, okay, so they announced it that afternoon, that Sunday afternoon. And so then that Monday morning, it's still new, and I'm sitting at my desk, and my desk at the time was right outside of Coach Napier's office. And so I'm sitting outside at the desk, and I'm just, you know, going on about my business, because I'm like, it's business as usual. We got OVs coming up. Like, we were about to play a championship game. I was like, we're about to play for the Sun Belt Championship. I'm like, it's business as usual. We're going to keep going. And so Coach Napier, like, walks by my desk, and he stops, and he's like, hey, Bri, have you been to Gainesville? And I was like, no, sir. He was like, are you ready to go? And I was like, oh. Yeah. And he just goes into his office, and that's how I knew I was coming with him. And so I immediately, I get up from my desk. I get up from my desk, and I'm like running to the hallway. I'm like, Mom, he's taking me with him. Like, I'm going to Florida. Like, so it was awesome. But to see that he brought me with him, and to see that he saw my value, and even during my time here, my time working in the recruitment department here at the University of Florida, like seeing how much he valued me, because I was able to get a promotion during my time here in my second season, or right before the second season. He promoted me, and just seeing that he saw my value, he saw my hard work, and that it paid off. I mean, it really is rewarding, because sometimes you're like, recruiting is a thankless job. Like, you do not know. Like, everybody just expects for everything to be done. Everyone just expects for it to be, you know, flawless, seamless, and they don't even know the half of that goes into it, really. And so, like I said, it's a thankless job. Like, you just do it because you love it. But just seeing that he did see my hard work, and seeing that my hard work paid off, it was awesome.
And for him to say so casually,
but that is him.
You've been to Gainesville? Like, let's go.
He's so chill. Like, he's so chill. I'm like, Coach, you can't just drop that on me this morning. Like, what?
Like, I was just freaking out.
Like, yes, because he's like passing by. I'm like, he's getting ready to leave. Do I have a job? And then he stops and says that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, Coach.
And you guys had a good few years.
Yes.
And then you decided that you were going to make a pivot.
Yes.
Why the pivot, and what gave you the confidence? Because especially in this time, like in sports, when you feel like taking a leap, it's so scary.
It is.
Because there's just not a lot of jobs, period. And just in the athletics department. So why did you feel that now was the time to make the pivot from recruiting? Yeah,
so funny enough, before I even got my first full-time job, like, I'm a big planner, naturally. That's why I probably have the jobs that I have. But I'm a planner, so literally I mapped out my career. Like, I did like a career map. And in my head, I wanted to do 10 seasons of football recruiting. And then I was like, then it's going to be time to move on. Like, I think that's going to be a great recruiting career, and then I will want to pivot into something different, because I have a lot of things, like I feel like I have like a lot of little talents, a lot of little interests that I want to kind of feed into. So again, like I set that time limit before I even got my first full-time job. And so my first season working at Mississippi State, you know, of course in a student capacity, was in 2014. So then here it is, the 2024 season. It's been 10 seasons of working in football.
Wow.
And I'm like, wow, like this is kind of what, you know, this is kind of what I planned for. And so the 2024 season gets here, and I felt fulfilled. You know, I felt like I accomplished a lot of what I wanted to accomplish in the recruiting world, in the recruiting space, and I grew tremendously over my seasons of working in recruiting. But then I was like, okay, now it's time for a new challenge. Now it's time for me to spread my wings a little more. And I don't know, it was just confidence. You know, I prayed, and, you know, God just God answered my prayers, and it was like the perfect pivot, because a big part of it is working for Coach Napier, working for that staff. Like, every work was like going to work with my best friends. Like, I love that staff, and I knew I was so fortunate to have that dynamic. And again, like, you create these relationships with the student athletes. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I've built these relationships. Oh my gosh, it tore my heart apart when I left UL. When I left UL, the University of Louisiana, those boys were like my heart, like my babies, and it just hurt to come here. I knew I had to do it for growth in my career, but I was just like, oh my gosh, those are my boys. And then again, you go through 3 seasons here of recruiting, and now the whole team is your babies, and it's like, oh my gosh. And I didn't want to leave them. And God just answers prayers. I mean, the opportunity came with Florida Victorious. They had an opening for their VP of marketing. A big part of what I was able to do, even in my recruiting space, so my title was Director of Football Recruiting and External Engagement. And a big part of the external engagement piece was interacting with donors and, you know, helping our Gator boosters, helping our Florida Victorious organizations with donor visits whenever they came to like practices and things like that. So through that, I was able to build a relationship with my staff that I'm a part of now. And again, like, they had the opening VP of marketing. It's a lot of things that were transferable skills. Again, my background is in marketing, so it was just like the perfect opportunity. It was the perfect position. And I mean, you know, I got it. I got the position, and here I am. Like, God is just so faithful.
He is.
He's faithful.
Oh, child, I feel like we preached on a couple episodes on Uncovered, but this is a podcast that loves the Lord, honey. We love the Lord.
Okay.
I wanted to ask about, in that confidence that you had in yourself when you were about to pivot, what advice would you give to someone who maybe is looking to pivot but is having, you know, fights in your head? I feel like you always go through those back and forth.
Imposter syndrome is real.
Oh, it's so real.
Imposter syndrome is real. Because I battled with that for a little bit, you know? I'm like, and sometimes I still feel like I have it, you know, a little bit. It's like, oh my gosh, do I deserve to be here? Like, am I qualified? And then you just have to be confident in who you are. You have to be confident in your skill set, and just know exactly who you are. And you are confident. You're not here by mistake. Like, it was meant for you to be here. This is your position. This is your seat at the table. You take it, you run with it. So you just have to keep reassuring yourself.
So what did the rest of the plan look like? So the 10 years, that was recruiting. So now let us in on what the rest of the plan said.
Yes. So the rest of the plan actually was unwritten.
So we're making it up. We're writing it
as we go. But I knew I was going to be ready for another opportunity. And I didn't know what that looked like. And I didn't want to be too specific and, you know, silo myself into something that might not have been for me. So a lot of it was an open-ended plan. Like, there was a plan there, but it was open, because again, I wanted to allow God to do what he was going to do. You know, I can't tell him,
take the reins,
look,
honey.
Order my steps. Order my steps. So it was more so like, okay, thinking about a timeline versus like specifically like, I'm going to be the director of this, I'm going to be VP of this, you know? It was like a timeline of like my career progression.
You said earlier about, you know, NIL is here to stay, and it is whether you like it or you don't.
It is part of it.
I want to know what your thoughts are on NIL. When it first came to the scene, were you a person that was hesitant about it, or did you lean into it?
You want to know what's funny? So in grad school, a bunch of my research papers we're advocating for NIL, for name, image, and likeness, for our student athletes to be able to benefit off of it, because they could have a YouTube channel and would not be able to monetize it. And I just thought it was absolutely insane that they're not able to make even like a cent. They are going out there playing their hearts out. They have created this image for themselves, and they should be able to benefit off of it. So a lot of it was like, you know, me advocating for it. I wrote papers about it. Now, what I will say is NIL did look a little different, like when introduced, because I like to refer to it as the Wild Wild West, because we gotta call it what it is. It's a little bit of the Wild Wild West. Again, it's constantly changing. I initially thought NIL was simply jersey sales, and I just see it as a whole different world. Like, it is a wide world. It's the Wild Wild West. There's so much different, so many different aspects, so many different components to NIL. But so I will say it was a little different than what initially we all probably thought it was. We just thought it was like jersey sales, little things like that, getting certain cents off of a dollar. Exactly. But now it's a whole world of its own. So I will say that was initially a little bit shocking. But again, we adjust. Like, when you work in sports, we all know you adjust, you pivot, you
have to know how to roll with the punches.
Roll with the punches, yes.
How have you seen NIL impact student athletes personally, from maybe when you were working at Mississippi State when it was not a thing to now? How have you seen it impact the way they go throughout their careers?
Yeah, so what I will say, I think there are, a lot of people see NIL in a negative light, but I think there are a lot of benefits to NIL. So a big part of what I think most universities try to do is push the student athlete development component, like, holistically. And so a lot of times they have these financial literacy, courses. So before then, our guys really weren't making money. So, like, you have these financial literacy courses and they're not actually actively being able to, apply these things. But now, like, our guys are able to, they're getting compensated and they're able to learn how to manage their money, learn how to invest, learn how to set themselves up for the future. Like, everybody's not able to make it to the NFL, and people always say NFL stands for not for long. So, you have to plan for life after football, life during and life after football. So them being able to go ahead and apply and get used to these things, learning about taxes, paying taxes, like all these different education pieces, they are able to apply. Yeah, they're able to apply now. And then even just what they're able to do for their families, what they're able to do for their communities. Like, we have guys that have foundations that they're able to impact their communities where they're from. We have young men. One of our student athletes in football, he was able to buy his mom a house, and it's like things like that, like simple things like that, that are just life-changing, and things that they wouldn't have been able to do before, but now they're using their name, image, and likeness, and they're being able to impact not only their families, but their communities that they're from. Because a lot of them come from, humble backgrounds, and them being able to give back, it's awesome, them having this opportunity and having this platform now.
How do you see Florida Victorious being beneficial to Florida athletics and to the student athletes in the next wave of change that will come, and the things that you guys are trying to do for this university?
Absolutely. So I think Florida Victorious, I love the way that we do things. I love the way our collective is built. So something that people probably don't even know, our student athletes actually do community service. So they're required to do community service in order to get compensation as well. So it's not like we're just giving them free money. It's not like we're, it's just meet and greets. It's just autograph signings. Like, that is an aspect of it for them to get compensated. But a big piece of what they do is giving back. So again, just instilling the importance of community, then instilling the importance of, like, you have this platform, you have this opportunity, pay it forward, give it back, I think that is awesome. And that's a great way of how Florida Victorious not only impacts, like, the Florida Gators, but the outside community, the surrounding communities. And then additionally, Gator Nation, I don't know if y'all know about Gator Nation, but Gator Nation is legit. When I say we have some diehards that's gonna ride for the orange and blue, they do. And so I think we give the Florida Gators a competitive edge because we do have such an amazing fan base that gives to our collective, and that way we're able to compensate the student athletes and give a competitive edge, like why the University of Florida is the place to be. You come here, you're not only playing at a high level. I mean, come on now, everything's school. Like, count the championships. Everything's school.
All right.
Everything's school.
All right. We're getting a little Y'all know. I can't give another SEC school too much. I can't give it too much, but no, y'all be doing it.
Legit. But I also think, again, so they're developing, as, athletes, developing athletically. They're developing, again, going back to a holistic approach that I think our athletic program pushes is just like developing them as the person. And I think Florida Victorious allows, both things, both for them to flourish, on the field, for them to do their thing, as well as for them to develop holistically and like, okay, yes, you are getting compensated in the NIL world, but you are giving back as well. So it's a nice balance,
So I know we said the story's still being written.
Yes.
The list is still being written.
Yes.
But what are some of those goals that you have for yourself, whether it's in this space of college athletics or outside of the space as you continue on in your career?
I really think about legacy. When you ask this question, I think about my legacy, and I think I just want to continue breaking barriers and creating space for other women that want to come into sports and that want to have, careers in sports. So a quote that I actually live by is lift as you rise. So as you continue to elevate, you bring somebody with you. So as I continue to elevate and move and progress through my career, I'm going to bring another young lady with me so that we're creating this space so it's not, necessarily shocking or jarring when you see a woman. Like, no, we belong here.
Yeah.
So I think that's my biggest piece. Like whatever I do, wherever life takes me, of course I want to stay in athletics. Like I love sports. I couldn't imagine my life without sports, without athletics, without, being around the game. But as I continue to migrate and move through my career, whatever that looks like, I just want to make sure that I am bringing other young women with me and creating space for them, and not because I can also mess it up for them. So I have to be very intentional.
That's so true.
Yeah, very intentional and very, smart about how I navigate myself and how I navigate my career. And so just keeping other women in mind, because I was once that young woman that wanted a space, in sports. I wanted a seat at the table, and now that I've earned it, I want to bring others with me. So I think that's what I think about more so when I think about my career and the future of it.
That's a great answer, because we have to be 10 times better.
Yes,
we
absolutely.
do. Every day that we show up. What is the power of being a woman in this space?
The power of being a woman in this space. I just think women bring such a unique perspective. Like just the way we see things, just the way we operate, it brings such a unique perspective. Because not to bash on our men, but they don't be thinking about a lot of the things. Like we kind of got a third eye a little bit. It's like
they be looking over some of the things, and I'll be like, why didn't you think of
exactly?
Love y'all, but
But I just think it is something about being a woman. It's something about the perspective, and what we bring is just different.
Yeah,
we bring a different edge to it, and I think that is something that is so powerful. And plus, like just being a woman in such a male-dominated space and being able to hold my own. I mean,
It's something about it.
It's something about
it. It's like, oh, I know I did that today.
Yes,
like, yes, I did.
Yes, I'm that girl. That girl.
That girl. Like Beyonce said, honey. She said it. So I'm going to throw her in any way I can. Y'all know.
Period.
All right. Well, for the last question.
Okay.
Why is it important for you to be uncovered?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Thank you.
I think going back to kind of piggyback off of my last answer, but the visibility, me being uncovered, people getting to see me, again, going back to the importance of representation, seeing women in these spaces, so that the next young lady can see themselves in me and they can continue to, progress through their journey and get to where they want to be. So I think that is the importance of uncovering me.
You are a great representation in this space. I want you to know that. I've just followed her journey ever since she left Mississippi State, and I'm just so in awe of everything that you have done at such a young age, because we're young and hot.
We
still,
are.
We are.
So we are. We aunties.
We're
aunties, the young aunties.
A little bit. I'm a young auntie, so don't try it. But I'm so thankful for you.
No, thank you, Jalyn.
And I am just so proud of you. And
I can say the same about you. You're incredible. You're incredible. I've always admired you, and I'm just honored to be on your platform right now.
Y'all are gonna stop making me cry at the end of these. Please tell them how they can follow you, Instagram, socials, all the things.
Yes, so you guys can follow me on Twitter. It is at my full name, Briaja, BRIAZJA Wade. And then I'm also on Instagram, XOXOBN Wade. And then LinkedIn as well, Bri Wade. So
go follow her and tap in with her. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jalyn.
Thank y'all for watching.
Yes.
Please go like, comment, subscribe, share all the things so somebody else can be inspired by Bri's journey. And we will see y'all next time on the season finale. It's coming up and I'm so sad. But it's gonna be great. Thank y'all again. Thank you, Bri. And we will see y'all later. Bye. Oh. She almost tried it because I almost did it and I said, oh, I got to remember where I am.
We gotta get her to do it.
He'll stay. That's what I can say for both of us. We can say.
And he'll stay.
Love y'all. Bye.